Chancellor Rachel Reeves has just taken a significant hit following the latest verdict from the Office for Budget Responsibility. Stay tuned as we explore what this means for the country's finances, potential policy shifts, and the political fallout ahead of the spring spending review. According to the OBR's latest forecast, the UK is on track for a budget deficit, a result of policy decisions that contradict one of Rachel Reeves's key promises. Reeves had firmly stated that everyday government spending should be funded through tax revenues rather than borrowing. However, the new report indicates that her approach may not hold up, leaving the nation with a deficit that could force a rethink of fiscal policy. In her initial budget, Reeves boasted a £9.9 billion buffer to cover any unexpected increases in borrowing costs or a slowdown in GDP growth. But turbulent market conditions earlier this year have effectively eroded that safety net. The forecast highlights two main factors behind the looming deficit: a downward revision in GDP growth projections, which the Bank of England confirmed last week, rising costs of government borrowing, particularly on gilts, which are putting extra pressure on the budget. These challenges mean that the UK government might have no choice but to either raise taxes or implement spending cuts, options that could trigger serious unrest among Labour MPs. Earlier in January, the Institute for Fiscal Studies warned that the Chancellor's stability rule, the promise that day-to-day spending would be covered entirely by tax revenues, was at risk of being undermined. Despite the concerns, a Treasury spokesperson reiterated on January 8th that the rule remains non-negotiable. Yet, insiders say that if the deficit materializes as forecast, Reeves is likely to resort to spending cuts rather than repeat the massive tax increases seen in her October budget. Bloomberg reports that for every 1% drop in the projected GDP at the end of this parliament, an extra £20 billion in savings will be required to meet the borrowing targets. Adding to the pressure, the Bank of England recently trimmed its 2025 growth forecast from 1.5% to just 0.75%. Governor Andrew Bailey warned that business and consumer confidence are declining, and he expects significantly weaker GDP growth in the near term before any recovery begins mid-year. Andrew Bailey said, "We now expect GDP growth to be notably weaker in the near term." So, what does all this mean? Simply put, these findings present a stark choice for the UK government. With the buffer wiped out and the deficit looming, Britain may have to choose between higher taxes or deep spending cuts. Either option could have profound implications, not only for the economy, but also for political stability, as dissent may well brew among Labour MPs who oppose such measures. In summary, the OBR's forecast is a serious blow to Rachel Reeves's fiscal promises, forcing the government to consider tough decisions that could reshape the UK's economic landscape. What do you think will be the outcome? Will Britain face higher taxes, or will spending cuts become the new norm? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.